Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Morgan James book launch. My name is Jim Howard. I'm the publisher for Morgan James. And today I'm really excited because we've got an uber talented, very successful author with us today, but she's more than an author. We'll talk about that in a second. But today we're talking with Erika Lemay. And Erika is the author of Almost Perfect, the life guide to creating your success story through passion and fearlessness. Erika, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. And you have done you've had such an amazing life, right? I know you traveled the world, you've performed all over the place, even with Cirque du Soleil. So can you tell the audience a little bit about what you do and how you got to this point?
Absolutely. So I've started at 4 years old. I had my path through ballet, gymnastics, and eventually circus arts. And as of the age of 13, I started touring the world with the contemporary circus company. I'm originally born in Canada, but I lived all around the world since then. And at 19, I decided that I wanted to be freelance. So that's when I created physical poetry, which is my brand and my art. More than a brand, it's my art that I wanted to create something for myself. And then for decades, I've been touring the world and often as well as a guest act with Cirque du Soleil. But I really wanted to promote my own style and my own art.
Yeah, and it's such an incredible thing that you do. And I encourage everyone out here. We'll talk about how you can get connected with Erika in just a bit, but make sure you go see what she's doing and what she's built. It's absolutely incredible. But this book, Almost Perfect, is so cool, talking about your experience and your life, but then how other people can build their story through passion and experience. So in Almost Perfect, you state that you don't believe in talent, and you're very talented, right? But you don't believe in talent, or even worse, just you say that having the innate abilities in a given field might actually not be helpful in reaching a high level. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I think that being talented won't make you world class. It's the decades of dedication that will. So every story of elite performers, they come with an unbelievable load of trouble. Just let's think about Georges St-Pierre, who is a Canadian superstar in mixed martial art and regarded as the best in the history of mixed martial art. He was this skinny boy at school being bullied, and no one would have regarded him as talented, quote unquote, as we regard talent. Or in the US, there's Wendy Whalen, who is the former New York City Ballet principal for 15 years. She has inspired generations, and she was, as a child ballerina, her severe scoliosis made her, well, they told her she couldn't have a chance at a professional career. So all of that, I think that shows you, and it's just banal examples, but it's not the ones who had it easy at the beginning that get out of the mass. And another thing is that to become good at something, it takes perhaps 10% of your career. And there's a quite good pool of good people that you won't remember. And to become great at something, it's the other 90% to belong to the elite. That's what really matters. It's the time that you put afterwards. And for that, I think it takes more than the initial abilities. And we put too much importance in the initial abilities. And actually, those who face obstacles might have an advantage there. First of all, when they have to remove themselves from their career, for example, I just take a sportsman, a sportswoman, we go through injuries and we have to stop for a year, 2 years, but we don't lose this time. You're able to take it as a learning opportunity. And if you had it easy at the beginning, and eventually you arrive at the place where you plateau, those who are really hungry, the fearless and the hungry, will make a difference and go through the fire to really be out of the mass. And I think that's what we should remember. And perhaps talent should be regarded as strength of character and willpower. I think just my way of shuffling it and my story, which I tell in Almost Perfect as well. It's just a banal because there's so many stories like that. I was absolutely not talented. I was not even able to nail the basics in what I was interested in the contemporary circus. So instead of losing it, calling it a day and quitting, I defined a new art, a new type of art, and I became world famous doing that.
Wow. Wow. And you know, you can see that everywhere, right? We see that in the workspace. We see that in athletics. A lot of times I've coached youth football and middle school football and high school football here in the States. And one of the things that always intrigued me through my career of coaching is how often we get caught up in the talent. We see a speed, or we look at a number, or we see a distance, or we see a height that someone can jump, and we immediately elevate that person. But then we see later on those kids with the passion, the drive, the commitment, the overcomers. Those are the ones that start to shine and separate themselves out and find their way to make it work. And I love that you talk about in the book, and it's so true. But with that, right, because you talk a lot about passion, in a world where rejection and failure happen on a daily occurrence, how could you keep your head up when you experience those failures? And like you said, you didn't have the talent all the time to hit those marks, so you had to do something different. But how did you keep your head up and keep yourself motivated and moving forward?
Well, your dreams will be crushed so many times, but your passion shouldn't. I think that the level of effort and sacrifices, which I always call choices, not sacrifices, all come down to the intensity of your passion. So then you'll ask me, how do I find a passion? Well, don't expect to be hit by a passion as a bolt of lightning. That's not how it works. A passion, actually, if you have a craft one, needs to be regarded as not practical, but essential. And it is difficult to create it. Find an interest, explore it, sweat over it, fall in love with it. And then when it still remains an interest, perhaps we can start to call it a passion or to regard it as such. I think that we give too much of a rose petal way to the word passion. It's a choice also, and it's a life-changing choice. If you choose a passion and then to make your whole life project around it, you're not choosing the easy path, but it's extremely rewarding. You must give birth to it. It's painful. It's going to be painful. So how deep is your passion will dictate to me the life project that you want to make happen. And then we talk about the master plan, which is the easiest and something so fascinating to create. But first you need to have something solid, which is your passion. And I think that the path to success is more like a battlefield than a fairy tale, and is often too much regarded as a fairy tale. Yeah. I think it's interesting to see the behind the scene, which is what I try to show as well, of the biggest stage in the world. We all have this imposter syndrome, which I talk about in the book as well. For me, it was there when I was at the climax of my career. I was performing in front of Bill Clinton, Madonna, Elizabeth Hurley, and I still felt like I did not belong, even in front of a standing ovation. And I had to go all the way to the other side of the world to get, in a school, to be taught by a Chinese master, to understand that actually I didn't have anything to envy 21, that I had my own form of art and I could be proud of it. So stupidly speaking, I would never say that, because people always saw me as this great performer, so self-confident and so on. But we all have our little demons running after us behind. And I think it's time to talk about them, perhaps.
Yeah, and that's so true. It's even when we reach those pinnacles or those marks that everyone looks and sees from the outside, wow, you're incredible, you've made it, you've done all these wonderful things. Inside, we're still us, right? We still have those fears, those hesitations, and those belief patterns that hold us down and hold us back. But passion is that thing that when life becomes tough, it can be the thing that drives us past those tough spots. When we're ready to quit and we're ready to say, no, we can't do this anymore, or we can't make that change or make that adjustment. It's that love, that passion, that desire that we have for completing that goal that we're shooting for, that can drive us past and ultimately get us to where we need to be.
Absolutely.
So, but passion can be, you know, I don't want to say double-edged, but passion can be dangerous at times, right? I mean, you open your book with this horrific accident that happens, and I don't want to give too much away because I know people will read the book and they'll find it out. But you know, you were left at a spot where maybe I can't do this anymore. Maybe this has been taken from me. So when that happens, and you find that, you know, you can't move on and pursue those dreams that you're so passionate about, how do you cope with the possibility that that passion could just be taken away?
I think you use the right word by saying that it's double-edged and there's a danger out of it. Because when you're so passionate, you're also focused on one thing. And it's like you look at it here. It's all that exists. I've lived through performing arts since the age of 4. I grew up out of it around the world. I created my personality, as a professional, as a woman. All of my patterns, emotional patterns, and so on are part of it. And I learned even to find comfort in extremes. So my life has been adrenaline, jumping from one plane to the other, performing at 90 feet in the air nonstop. How would I now not be able to look at the world without seeing it lukewarm, or feeling that I'm colorblind? So I think that was a big, big fear. And obviously we know that it's going to happen, that as a performing artist, that it's going to stop at some point. But I think everyone does some kind of denial, so we're never ready. Yeah. And I got used to the extraordinary being my ordinary. So I was wondering, can I live without it? And I don't believe that things happen for a reason. I think that things happen and then we have to do our best out of it. But if they did, they happen to rid me of that false belief that my intensity resided in the performing art. All of that, my intensity was inside of me the whole time. Yeah. And my body was only a means of transportation for it. It was not an end. And my body is breakable, but I am not. It's been a lot of realization. And of course, it was not from one second to the other. And the other thing is that the performer status, when you're an elite performer, is regarded as a wow thing. So the society looks at you, looks up at you. You're doing these extraordinary things, which did not bother me so much because it started very early on. But I grew to understand that I was used to this status towards myself. How do I define myself now? Not being able to use my body in this extraordinary way if it's all I worked for. But there's a personality behind it that made these things happen. But the time for me to realize that was a little shifted. I think that your craft and your achievement is a result. It's not the core foundation. And stupidly enough, when it's all that you see and all that you do every day, it's quite difficult to understand that. But once you do, you can work into the redefining yourself. And I think everyone will have to go through redefining yourself many times in your life. It's not that we just have one idea of ourselves. So probably it's important to do that early on. And I did go back on stage. I did discover a whole colorful life and so many things that now I'm even more passionate about than performing. I did go back on stage, and I think that now I'm a better performer because I'm able to live the performances that I was still so from afar because I wanted to nail that skill, do this, do that. And now I really do it from another perspective, and it gives a more mature performance, and I'm not afraid of losing it anymore. So that's the silver lining of the accident, has really been to remove the fear that I had. And I think I saw myself as a fearless person at the time, but it was completely false. I had that very present fear, and now it's gone.
Yeah, no. And, you know, I think that you touched on a lot of things there, but just the idea that, let's face it, whether it's an accident or time, there's just going to be times of redefinition in our lives where we're going to have to make some choices and decide we can't do the things that we did before. So what's next? What's that next piece? And is this a defining moment for us, or are we who we always have been and just now find a different outlet to portray that inner strength and who we are? And you've done that. And I love that you found that freedom of not trying to be perfect and hit the marks, but to really just express and show your love for what you're doing and how that comes through in the performance. And I think that happens in everyday life, whether we're talking about at work or at home. I think if you just let go of trying to hit the mark and just focus in on performing your best and out of that place where you control and that you can perform from, I think you're going to find that everything else kind of falls into place, works itself out, and you end up where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that wanting to be perfect anyway is a lost cause. So better to want to be almost perfect.
Yes, I love that. I love that. You can never be perfect, but the strive for perfection leads you to greatness. And I love that your title of the book is Almost Perfect, and the story behind it is so well written and so beautifully done. But it's really a book for everyone. It's not just a book for artists or performers. Of course, there's that connection there, athletes and things like that. But this book is really for everyone, because we're all striving for something, aren't we? And we all have those issues. And as you said, those demons kind of lurking in the background. And this book is about overcoming and finding your true self and finding your powerful voice.
Mm-hmm.
And, so what would you say to a reader, to people watching, that you hope they get, if there was one thing that they get out of this book, what would that hope be?
One thing is difficult. I hope 1,000 things, but apart from the core story and the core narration of my own life, I try to feed as much tools, like concrete tools as possible, to be able to make a step ahead. So it's really straightforward. It's not in the air, fluffy, cute story. There is a story behind. There are very nice moments. There are moments that are terrible, but a lot of tools. And I hope if they can get one tool, whatever it is, because it's from health to personality building, to redefining yourself, to career, depending where you stand. If one tool can help you, and it's really like almost a to-do list, that would be, I think, what you can take out of it.
Yeah, beautiful.
But
I know, you guys out there watching, this book is for you. This book is a powerful book. It really walks you through that process and gives you, as Erika said, the tools that you need. So I encourage you to grab a copy of the book, Almost Perfect. It's available everywhere books are sold. So I encourage you to go out to your favorite place to buy books and get a copy of this book today. But Erika, I know people that are watching us now are going to want to connect with you. They're going to want to find out more about what you're doing and about the book and about your message. So what's the best way for someone watching us now to connect with you?
You can find all the social and so on my website, which is Erika with a K, Erika Lemay, Lemay.com. So erikalemay.com. I'm going to do my little PR moment with the book.
Oh, there
That's
it is.
how you write my name. It's very soft and wonderful. You should
yes, it's so
your
beautiful.
Hand. And then you can meet me over Instagram, whatever, Twitter, all of them, email.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to put the link right below this video, as always, so that you guys out there watching can see it. Erika with a K, and you can go to erikalemay.com, connect with Erika, get connected with her on social, but more importantly, get a copy of Almost Perfect, because this book is powerful, and I know it's going to benefit everyone who gets their hands on it. So, Erika, thank you so much for, one, just writing this book, using your experience and what you've learned over the years to help other people kind of get past some of these things in their life that hold them back from realizing their passion and success in the life that they want to live. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time today to talk with us.
Thank you.
And to everyone out there watching, thank you guys so much for listening into this interview. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope to see you on our next one.